Okay. You start them, then you can't end them. That's how you know it's a good nigun. That's a Reb Shlomo nigun. Oops, don't go anywhere, please, my guitar. It's not worth $100,000, but still, don't want it to fall. Okay, so welcome to everybody who's watching. This is Ahava, and everybody who's going to join us. And my mother watches every week. She watches the replay, so Shalom Aleichem to her, and Shana Batsheva, and everyone else who joins us. Okay, so we have here Ben, and David, and Aryeh, and myself. And we're learning from Torah Hey in Likutey Moharan. So Likutey Moharan, for you guys, I'm sure you know what it is, but just to give you the quick introduction, it's the collected teachings of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Rabbi Nachman, of course, died at 38 years old in 1810. In pretty much the middle of nowhere, even though now lots of people come and visit his kever, his Zion, his grave. It was the middle of nowhere in 1810, and here we are 200 years later learning his teachings, and they keep spreading more and more and more. Rabbi Nachman's teachings, this is a Chabad center called Bati Lagani. We have a Tanya over here, they have Tanya classes and all kinds of classes, mainly for women. How did I get in here? I'm friends with the couple that owns the house, and I needed a place for the class, and they were doing construction, and we were first in the room over there, the big room, for about 2 years while the floor was ripped up, and the ceiling was half missing, and this room wasn't even built. And then they said, okay, now that we finished, get out of here. And I said, no way, I'm not leaving. So this is fine, you can use the back room. So that's how we ended up here. Just Baruch Hashem. Really fortunate. So the difference between Chabad, Chassidus, rest of Chassidus, Chabad is very linear. It starts with an idea, follows logically, and then ends. Rabbi Nachman is much more abstract. He'll start with the concept and finish with connecting the two, but in between makes these layers and interconnections. Like 2 weeks ago, we were learning this idea of where does Hashem, what is the joy that we feel when we do a mitzvah? So it's the joy that Hashem feels in us doing the mitzvah. Because Hashem created the mitzvot in order for us to do them. When we do a mitzvah, we give Hashem pleasure, spiritual pleasure. And the good feeling that we have from doing the mitzvah is Hashem's joy in us doing the mitzvah. That's like a classic Rabbi Nachman, that's why I do the infinity sign here. That's like the classic Rabbi Nachman way of building ideas. And he does many of these small ideas within big ideas, and then in the end he brings it all together. So we're in the middle of a very long lesson, because we've been doing this class now for 7 years or so, maybe 8 years. And we did all the short lessons, and we did all kinds of lessons, and now we'll get into the heavy duty stuff. So it starts off with Tzarich. I'll just read from the Kitzur, Likutey Moharan, which is the abridged version of Likutey Moharan. which was actually commissioned by Rabbi Nachman from Reb Nassim, who compiled the Likutey Moharan and basically the whole Breslov library. He said, Rabbi Nachman said that we have so much stuff in the Likutey Moharan, it's so deep people are going to forget, we need a way for them to quickly review, and that's the Kitzur Likutey Moharan. So this is lesson Torah Hey, B'chatzotzot v'kol shofar, with the blowing of the trumpets and the blowing of the shofar. Tzarich kol adam lomar kol ha'olam lo nivra ela bishvili. Every person has to say that the world was created just for me. It says in the negative way, but it means in the positive way. The world was created for me. Al ken tzarich kol adam lirot ule'anyen b'chol eit b'tikun ha'olam ulemalot chesron ha'olam u'litpalel ba'avoram. So if the whole world was created for you, then you have a unique purpose in this world. And not only do you have something that you need to do that only you can do in this world, you also have to daven for other people who have not yet filled their purpose or done everything that needs to be done in this world. Then he talks about doing the mitzvot. Tzarich lasot ha-mitzvot b'simcha gedola kol kach ad shelo yirtzeh shum schar olam haba b'shvila. Person has to do the mitzvah with such great joy that they don't want any reward even in the world to come. Ela sheyazmin lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzvah acheret b'schar mitzvah zo, but rather Hashem should call in another mitzvah for this person as a, not even a reward, just because they did a mitzvah, so they want another mitzvah. It's like somebody who's eating pizza, they eat one slice of pizza and it's really good, they want another slice of pizza, but you don't ever get full from the mitzvot, you just want another one and another one and another one. Ki hu ne'eneh me'amitzvah ba'atzma, because the person derives pleasure, spiritual pleasure from the mitzvah itself. And of course there's no physical pleasure that can match the spiritual pleasure that we get from learning Torah or doing mitzvot. No matter how great, maybe I've never used drugs, but maybe there's some drug that feels like Torah, but Torah is not a drug. Torah is connecting with God, and it's the real thing. Drugs are a distraction from your problems, they're a distraction from your life, they're a temporary thing. Torah actually changes you from the inside out. It changes who you are, it changes your connection with the world and Hashem. And through how the joy that a person feels, they can know which judgment was passed upon the world. If it's before the judgment, or after the judgment. Regarding who and who specifically the judgment was passed, God forbid. So we know that in heaven there are judgments passed upon people, right? God forbid, we should never know from pain and suffering that sometimes you have like a person that they get the doctor says, sorry, you have this terrible disease, Shalom Nedar. And that's a gzar din, like that's a clear gzar din. That's a judgment in heaven, the person has a disease. Now, how do you know if it's before or after? So the person gets the diagnosis, but they haven't been told, they have like 2 weeks to live or something like that. So you're davening for them. You're saying, Hashem, please heal this person. Please heal my friend. Please heal, myself, whatever it is. And if you feel a certain level of joy, simcha, in your davening, then you know that the judgment has not been sealed in heaven. It's been given, but it hasn't been sealed. But if it's been sealed, you'll feel a certain heaviness. He says that heaviness is the evil energy in the world. Why is the evil energy? In order to have good, you have to have evil. In order to have light, you have to have darkness. In order to have white, you have to have black. The opposites are how Hashem created the world. In order for me to read the text in this book, I have to have a white piece of paper. If the text is white, I wouldn't be able to read it. So we have evil. In order for us to have good, there's evil energy in the world, and the evil energy is given permission to block your davening. So you're davening for some judgment that was given, you don't feel joy, you'll know that it's because it's being blocked by the negative energy in the world. So what do? You do it in a roundabout way. You have to daven in a roundabout way. So I told the story, I've mentioned the story so many times already, and I'll give it very shortly. There was a couple who didn't have children. They went to their Rebbe. He said, go to my friend, the Tolner Rebbe. They went to the Tolner Rebbe, and he said, I'll come for Shabbos lunch. He comes, he walks around the house, he sees there's no kids. He says, I'm sorry, I can't eat here. I made a promise from Hashem that I don't eat in a home where there's no children. So they said, but Rebbe, that's why we want you to come here, because we wanted a bracha for children. He's like, so I'll come back next year, and Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll be able to keep my promise. And he goes out and he says, Hashem, please don't embarrass me. Give this couple children so that I can keep my promise of eating at their Shabbos table. And sure enough, a year later, they had children, and he had a child. He could eat at their Shabbos table. So that's how you daven in a roundabout way for somebody. You can daven like straight ahead, but sometimes you have to daven in a roundabout way, and you can know this by the joy that you feel in your davening. ויודע איך להתפלל עבור העולם, כי לאחר גזר הדין צריכים הצדיקים להלביש תפילתם בסיפורים. Because a person can know how to daven for something in the world, because after the judgment has been passed, the tzaddikim have to enclose their davening in stories, like what I just told you. That's an example of enclothing the davening in a story. V'chol zeh zochim al yidei asiyat mitzvah, and all this we merit by doing the mitzvah b'simcha gdola, with great joy, me'a mitzvah atzma, from the mitzvah itself. Ikar simcha hu b'lev. The main expression of joy is in the heart. Right? We don't have joy in our brain. We can have like an intellectual excitement when we understand an idea. But the real joy, when you want to start dancing, or you see a friend and you want to hug them, that's coming from the heart. ואי אפשר ללב לשמוח עד שיסיר הקמומיות שבליבו, שיהיה לו ישרות לב, ואז יזכה לשמחה. And a person cannot truly be joyous, like not from drinking or from winning $1 million in the lottery, but just like a normal day. You can't be joyous until you straighten the crookedness that's in your heart, and you have a straight heart, and then a person can merit joy. And we're going to talk about that tonight. We get deeper into it. What he's saying is that how connected are you to Hashem? When you're fully connected to Hashem, you can have complete joy. Otherwise, something is going to pull you down. Something from this world, your connection to the mundane matters of the world, without realizing that Hashem is running the world, can bring you down. He calls it akmumiyut shebalev, the crookedness in the heart. Mafshitim al yedei ra'amim. So how do you straighten it? Through thunder. Shehem b'chinat tefillah. B'koach, this is davening with strength. Yir'ah, with fear and awe. V'a'ava, in love. B'kavana gedolah, with great intention. So that's what we talked about before. Davening with this thunderous way of davening. And he gave the example, Rabbi Nachman gave the example, that if you're walking in the woods and thunder or lightning strikes a tree, it'll wake you up. It's gonna, like if it's right next to you, you hear that the crack, and you look and you see the tree come on fire. And this actually happened to me when I was in Boy Scout camp when I was younger, and it just wakes you up. Now you can have the same thing today. You walk here on Betzalel Street, and a truck flies by and just barely passes your face. You're like, whoa, that was really close. And that shock, has happened to somebody here? So that shock that you feel, that's ra'amim, that's the thunder. He says you can do the same thing with your davening. You can daven in such a way that it wakes you up as if there's lightning striking a tree or a bus, God forbid, almost hitting you. לזכות לשמחה ענן הוא על ידי שמתפללים בכוחות ויראה גדולה ובאהבה. To merit this, you have to pray with this great davening, this power, this energy, and with love. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's see here. Okay, so let's just read the next paragraph because this is where we're going. צריך להתפלל עם כל הכוחות להוציא את הכל בתפילתו בכוח גדול. Person has to daven with all of this energy. So right, if you come to shul and you're like, shachrit, okay, just start davening, and you're half asleep, and you're looking at the clock, like, when can I get out of here? When am I going to finish my obligation? Then you're definitely not davening with all of your energy. Davening with all of your energy is like, imagine you're about to run a race. There's a guy next to you, and he's like, I'm going to beat you. And you're like, no, I'm going to beat you. And you've got all this energy, and you start going into it with this energy. That he says, that's how you daven. Not like you're racing, but with the same energy that you would put into a competition in order, or if you wanted to like make some business deal, or whatever great thing you wanted to achieve. He says, that's like daily davening, which takes a lot of work. That's real avoda to daven like that. Because it's easy to just say, somebody can say to you, did you daven shachrit? And you can say, well, I don't know if I really davened, but I'm not obligated to daven again. Like I said, all the words of davening, so I don't have to daven again. But was it really davening? The Baal Shem Tov says, how do you know that your davening was accepted? When you look at the person next to him and you feel closer to him than you did before the davening. If you feel closer to everyone in the minyan than before the davening, you know that Hashem accepted your davening. Especially if you have a nigun afterwards. You start singing a little nigun as you're packing up your tefillin and your talis, then for sure you know your davening has been accepted. In order to get there, you have to daven in kol hakochot, with all of your energy. You have to say the words from your mouth. Now, we talked about this last week, that if you're shouting the davening, you're going to annoy people. You don't want to annoy people. Also, this thing with people clapping super loud in davening, there's lessons in the Likutey Moharan about clapping, but you're supposed to clap like this. Nobody's supposed to hear it. You can clap as hard and as loud as you want. No one but you is supposed to hear it. That energy is supposed to go into it. Rabbi Nachman says that the clapping distracts the negative energy. It throws it off, and so it helps with the davening to go higher. But when people start going, like crazy like that, I don't think that's what Rabbi Nachman meant. We also learned about it, and it was pretty clear that he said that's not what it means. There was somebody who asked Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Neberdichev if this is how you're supposed to daven. And we know Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was known for davening like in a crazy way. Like he would do somersaults. I don't know how you do that. Somersaults during davening. He'd roll them. Somehow. I mean, he was in incredible shape. What can I say? And he would start at one corner of the shul and end at the other, and he would just be like going all over the place. Maybe that's just how people described how his intense davening was. Whatever it was, they said to him, should I daven so loud that everyone in the world can hear me? He says, no, you're going to annoy the people. And he gave an example of a guy, he mentioned his name, I remember his name, who would come every year for Rosh Hashanah, and everyone knew that during the year he davened like crazy, but in Rosh Hashanah you couldn't hear a sound out of him. Because he knew that the people that were davening in Rosh Hashanah couldn't handle his shouting and his going crazy. So the people can't handle it, so then it's not, you don't want to do it in a way that annoys people. But you want to do it with enough energy. You can put a lot of energy into something, even if your voice is not loud. You can still have the koach. So through your voice is going to penetrate your brain. And then you can daven with intention. That is that your heart will actually hear the words of davening that you're speaking. And through this, and then the crookedness in a person's heart will be straightened out. And then a person will become joyous. That to the point where a person will do the mitzvah with this great joy. Just from the mitzvah itself, not for any other reason. It's not like somebody says, if you give me 100 shekels, I'll be able to have heart surgery that'll save my life. And you're the last 100 shekels. All I need is that 100 shekels. You're like, here's 100 shekels. Like, wow. It's like you won the lottery. And so you feel great. It's like, no, you're just doing it for the mitzvah itself. And in order to do it just for the mitzvah itself, you have to have a straight heart. Because if you're looking for somebody to like grovel and thank you and beg you and give you awards and all kinds of things, you're not doing it from a straight heart. And then if a person's on this level, they'll be able to daven in a way where they can say something in a roundabout way and nullify the decree that's in heaven even after it's been passed. Okay, so that's where you've now caught up with the abridged version. I guess everybody else that's watching, it's good to have a review. Shalom to Carlos and to Hava and to Chaya. So that's where we left off. Okay. Yivaer she'hatnai kodem lechach. He's going to explain that the condition before this happens, that a person can daven with such a loud voice and with such intention, Ad sheyishma ram b'mocho, to the point where they will hear the thunder in their brain, in their mind. Ad asher yishaer et lev habriot, that will straighten the hearts of the people around them, himself and the people around them. V'chol sheken et lev et libo hu, and also his heart, the person's heart. Sheyeh ba'atzmo yirei shamayim, the person should be in awe of heaven, meaning Hashem. Ki rak az hadvarim nishma'im mitkablim, because only then the words that a person speaks are accepted or received in heaven. So sometimes you daven in a way where Hashem says, that's very nice, but that's not the davening that I need. And in order for your davening to reach through the heavens, you have to do it in a way that straightens your heart. That you're basically straightening your heart means that you have total trust in Hashem. And it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're facing all kinds of serious challenges. And I hesitate to say the story, because we married off 2 children, Baruch Hashem, but we have many more to come, Be'ezrat Hashem, maybe even sometime soon. Not that there's any news to announce, but my kids are 20 and 19, the next one's in line. And when we married off the first 2 kids, my wife and I literally had 4,000 shekels in the bank account. And they got married within a month and a half of each other. So that was 2,000 shekels for each shadchanit, and that was it. We had nothing left then. It was just an avalanche of expenses. In the end, it was about 160,000 shekels, 80,000 each wedding, like everything from the sheitel to the gemara to before and after and everything we had to pay. And somehow, mamish mina shamayim, the money just came, and I can't even explain it. And I'm hesitant to say that because I'm already dreading the next time this happened. I'm constantly trying to put aside money, but something comes up and something comes up. It's like Hashem saying, no, I'm not going to let you save up the money. I'm going to make you do what you did last time. You're going to have to daven like crazy. It's really stressful. But what happened, I just got to the point where I really said, I don't have any more money. Like my wife would call and she'd say, listen, the photographer needs a 5,000 shekel deposit today. Like, we don't have 5,000 shekels. How am I supposed to give him 5,000 shekels? And then within like 2 days, people sent me money. Like word got around, some business thing came through, some refund came in. It was crazy. 5,000 shekels, here you go. Then we needed 10,000 shekels for the hall. Same thing, and same thing, and same thing, and it was a miracle. Now, where did that come from? It basically, if we're talking about akmimiyut shebelev, this crookedness in the heart, you can think of it as wrinkles in a sense. This davening in such an intense way and completely trusting Hashem is like ironing out the wrinkles of your doubt that Hashem is running the world. That's the crookedness in the heart. And he's saying, how do you get there? You get there by having complete faith and davening in such an intense way that it actually penetrates your mind. Because your soul knows that Hashem is running the world, but your intellect knows that Hashem is not running the world. Someone else is running the world. My boss is running the world. The bank is running the world. The landlord is running the world. Other people are running the world. Everyone knows that Bibi and Trump run the world. I have no idea. But God? Sure. God is cool in shul, but God is not Bibi or Trump, because those people are making the decisions. God is not my boss, who's actually signing my paycheck and putting the money in my account. And to know that the doctor doesn't heal without Hashem giving the doctor permission to heal. That's basically the analogy for understanding it. Until you really get that, when you can actually go to a doctor, and the doctor needs to help you, and you say to yourself, I know that this person is simply a vessel for Hashem to heal me, and you can talk with the doctor and give the doctor all the respect the doctor deserves and listen to the doctor and everything, but to know that when you take a pill or have surgery or something, that's not what's saving you, it was Hashem saving you. Now you can say, why does Hashem have to do it through a doctor? Right? If Hashem is running the world all the time, Hashem is creating everything all the time, so why waste my time with the doctor? Just let me daven and heal me. The same thing with Parnasa. Why would I have to work? Like, Hashem, you want me to learn Torah all day? So I'll sit and learn Torah, and you put all the money in my bank account, and I don't have to worry about anything. The reason is because Hashem created the world with free will. That is Hashem's gift to us, because we have a soul. Our soul was in the supernal realm before it came down into this world. I have no memory of it. Maybe other people do. I don't remember what it was to not be in this world. But I do know that it says in the Gemara, and it says in the Tanya, quoting the Gemara, that when the soul comes down into this world, it takes an oath that it'll be tzaddik and not a rasha, and that's the oath that we take. And that's what Hashem wants us to do. Hashem created a world of absolute free will. If anybody says, how can God, who's all good, allow Hitler to murder 6 million Jews? It's because this is a world of absolute free will, 100%. Because if there was for 1 second there wasn't free will, this world couldn't exist. What's the point? Free will means that when I do a mitzvah, it counts, and when I do a transgression, it counts. So Hashem has to heal us through a doctor, and Hashem has to give us parnasa through a job or a business or some other thing, so that we can always have free will. And Hashem has to allow humans to do even stupid, crazy things in order for us to always have free will. So when the soul goes back up to heaven, it says, I earned my reward. I made choices. I had the choice of good and bad. They were completely equal, and I chose the good. Many times the bad is more tempting than the good. And still, I chose the good. That is Hashem's kindness to us. I know this from the Likutey Moharan. I didn't make this stuff up. We've just been learning it for so many years. Okay, so that's where we are. וזה שנתבאר שעל ידי קול ודיבור נשמעים רעמים. This was clarified before that. Through the voice that comes out of your mouth, it makes thunder. וזהו אמור חכמינו זיכרונם לברכה. This is what a sage of blessed memory said. מי שבו יראת שמיים דבריו נשמעים. So Rabbi Nachman likes to give text proofs. That's from Masechet Brachot. That a person that has fear of heaven, awe of heaven, meaning that what Hashem does matters to them, then their words are heard. Anashim mekablim et dvarav. People receive what the person is saying. V'atam nechach, and the reason for this, al yedei yirah. Dvarav nishma'im, that through the person's awe of Hashem, their seriousness in taking Hashem, their words are heard. Ki mi sheyesh bo yirah b'bchinat gvura, because Yira, which is fear, awe, is connected to Gvura, which is stringency or harshness. Kolo nishma na'aser ha'amim ha'miyashrim et lev hashomea. A person who speaks with holy Gvura, not anger, and not a lack of patience, but I guess you could say moral clarity. That's a word that we would use today. A person that's able to speak about God with clear moral clarity, their voice is heard like the thunder that straightens a person's heart. Kiram misitra mitzad di Yitzchak, because thunder is from the side of Yitzchak, which is connected to Gvura, and we know the idea of pachad Yitzchak, the fear of Yitzchak, meaning Yitzchak. So we have Abraham. Abraham was chesed, kindness. Yitzchak was Gvura, stringency, meaning that Yitzchak could discipline himself, and Yitzchak probably didn't have patience for injustice. Abraham was all kindness, and Yaakov was the combination of the two. Yaakov was Tiferet, the combination of the two, and that's the level that we want to reach. V'hara'amim hem gvura k'mo shekatuv. So now he's giving text proofs here, and I'm going to skip over the text proofs because as I was learning this, I was actually saying, Rabbi Nachman, how many text proofs do we need? We got the point that when a person speaks with this inner clarity and with a loud voice, they hear it and other people hear it. Let's see what he says here. Kol hamitpalel b'chavana, regarding a person that davens with intention, na'asim ra'amim b'moach, it makes like this thunder in the mind, hamiyashrim b'kolam et alev, that straightens out the heart. And he's going to bring us some more text proofs here. And I want to pass through the text proofs. Okay, so we're going to the next section. So you get the idea. If you daven in a loud way, it doesn't have to be loud that everybody hears. It has to be loud for you. Rabbi Nachman has this quote, which I've only heard and I haven't seen the source for it. A person should shout so loud in the davening that no one can hear him. And you can, in your mind, you can shout super loud. You can imagine the walls are collapsing from your shouting. Not the base, God forbid, but the walls collapsing and like the whole world is shaking from your shouting, but nobody has to hear it. But that's putting the energy into it. And that kind of energy creates a thunder. The thunder is like the shock that you get when there's lightning that hits a tree, or it irons out the wrinkles in order to give you a straightened out heart, so that you can do the mitzvot with joy, so that you can daven for somebody else, because the whole world was created just for you, so that you could fulfill your purpose. And you can daven for somebody else on the level, even of a tzaddik, of a roundabout way, where even if the judgment in heaven is given, you can still nullify it through your davening. I had one Rosh Hashanah, I don't even know what happened. I guess that Rosh Hashanah I was holy. Because everybody that came to me and asked for a bracha, like on the spot was happening. One guy came and said, I've got a terrible stomach cramp. I'm like, okay, put my hands on his head, give him a bracha. Like an hour later, the stomach cramp went away. Another guy came, he had a headache. One of my daughters was there, she had a headache. I gave everyone brachas right away. It never happened again. I'm trying to figure out what I do. How many times I have to go to the mikveh for that to happen. I guess it's whatever it was, the day, the combination, the time. So you can reach this level of, imagine you could daven for people. There's a story of the Rebbetzin, I think it's, who was Hineni? Rebbetzin Heller, right? You don't remember this organization here, Hineni? She since passed away. So she was a Holocaust survivor, and her father, I don't remember the whole story.
Young Grace, maybe?
Young Grace, maybe that was it. It was one of them. I don't remember. But it was one of these power tzaddikids that was here in Jerusalem. She had an organization called Hineni. So I moved here in 1993, and I've been here a long time. So back in those days, I remember Hineni was everywhere. This woman was a powerhouse, and then she passed away, and everybody's like, oh, that's it. The lights have gone out. There's no light anymore. So I read a story about her father. Maybe it was Young Grace. And he was a chassid of, I don't remember which Rebbe it was. And the Rebbe, it was during the Shoah, and her father came with like 2 suitcases full of little tiny notes that people wrote to the Rebbe. Kvittelach. The people wrote to the Rebbe, like with requests that the Rebbe should daven. And the Rebbe said to her father, I just don't have the energy to go through all of it. So you go through all of them, and whoever you bless will get my blessing. So he went through all of the suitcases and blessed everyone with the Rebbe's blessing. And then eventually he moved here to Jerusalem, and he realized that everyone that he blessed, the blessings were coming true. So he went and sat in the hospitals, literally would sit by the beds of sick people and daven for them and heal them. Maybe not everyone, but some of them, because he had the power to heal. But at some point, it disappears. This was the Baba Sali's yard site this week. And I have a podcast of Hasidic stories. So I wanted to tell stories of the Baba Sali, so I was looking up all these stories of the Baba Sali. And here's a guy who did like open miracles. People come, they were blind, they left, they could see. Like crazy. One guy came, the stuff was documented in the Israeli newspapers. And witnesses and photographs and everything. The story that I tell on the podcast this week, there was a guy who came in a wheelchair, I'm just telling the short version, and he left walking. And miraculous things. But at some point the Baba Sali died. I'd love to go to the Baba Sali and say, I need a bracha for this, I need a bracha for that, but that's it. That's gone. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, physically, at least they're gone. And that's it. So what do we have left? We have our davening. And we have davening on the level that we're creating this thunder. So we're going to go for like another 5 minutes of the text. We didn't even get to where I wanted to get to tonight, but it's fine. Do it next week, and then I'll get a short story for you. Yachzor levaer et divrei hazohar. Hanan is going to now come back to the words of the Zohar as mentioned above. Shal yedei chibur hamelachim mitzad gvurot that through the connection of the angels from the side of gvura, stringency, na'aseh kol hapogea ba'ananim, makes a sound that hits the clouds, v'gorem leram hanishma lebriot, and it makes this thunderous sound that's heard by human beings. V'chibur zeh shel melachim nikra kol shofar. And this connection that's made when the angels hit the clouds and make a thunderous sound is called the voice of the shofar. B'bchinat elo shel Yitzchak. That's connected to the horn of the ram of Yitzchak. V'zeh haram shaba. So now we started off b'chatzotzot b'kol shofar. That was the quote that he started off with, so now he's beginning to connect it to that. The blowing of the shofar, the trumpets and the blowing of the shofar. V'zeh haram sheba mikol ha'malachim. This is the thunderous sound that comes from the angels. Mitzad ha'gvurot, from the side of stringency. Sheb'chinat kol shofar, to connect to the shofar, shel Rosh Hashanah, that we hear on Rosh Hashanah. Ki ha'shofar zeu shofar shel ayil. What type of shofar is it? What type of horn? It's a horn of a ram. Kedei lahazkir et elo shel Yitzchak, to remind us of the ram of Yitzchak, the Hainu, that is le'orer et zchut akidat Yitzchak, to arouse the merit of the binding of Isaac. Because we say it every morning, that Abraham says to Yitzchak, come, let's go make a little sacrifice. And Yitzchak says, so where's the sacrifice? He's like, don't worry about that, my son, Hashem will take care of it. And then he says, why don't you lay down here and, I'll just tie you up and cut you up and burn you. And then there's a voice from heaven that says, stop, now I know you believe in me. And look over there's a ram caught in the bushes. So that's where we're talking about the horn of the ram of Yitzchak. Yitzchak, and since Yitzchak, so we had Avram, which is chesed, Yitzchak, which is Gvura, Yaakov, which is the synthesis of the two, that's Tiferet. Meaning that if a person, to give you a simple example, a person's all love, so their child says, I don't want to brush my teeth. And you say, no problem. Don't ever brush your teeth. And then 2 years later, they have to get teeth pulled. Even when kids brush their teeth, they have to sometimes get their teeth pulled, or they get these big crowns. My poor kids, they've had all this stuff. But a father who is Gvura, the father's chesed says, don't. The father's guru is like, every night you brush your teeth. I don't care if I have to sit on top of you and stick that toothbrush in your mouth, you're going to brush your teeth. So that's maybe going too far. One is too far, the other is too far. But Tiferet is the combination of the two. Tiferet is the father that says, brush your teeth. And the kid says, no, I don't want to. I'm like, no, you have to brush your teeth. Trust me, I'm saving you time at the dentist. Come, let's go. And you mix the chesed and the gvura together. Sometimes, you have to sit the kid down and actually brush their teeth, and sometimes you let them go to bed without brushing their teeth. So that's the level that we want to get to. And here we're talking about the level of gvura, which is just stringency. Im ken kol shofar ugam bchinat gvura. So if Yitzchak is gvura, then the blowing of the shofar is also gvura. Ve'lechen, and therefore haram haba me chamato shel hu me'agvura, and then the sound that comes out from, I'm not sure, what's chamato? Huh? Very, very good. Chema. Could be. I'm not sure. Is gvura b'chinat ketu v'ram gvurato. So here's his text proof for this from Iyov, that the sound of thunder is Hashem's gvura. Nimtza, it follows, shegam kol hashofar ubchinat ra'amim. So it means that the blowing of the shofar is connected to thunder. V'yachol gam hu lefashet et akmimiyut shebelev, and it can also straighten the crookedness in the heart. So there's more here, but I don't want to go over time, and we'll just go back there next week. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. Anyone have a question before I continue? You can also ask a question at the end if you think there's something. I'm happy to answer questions. Okay. So a story that Reb Shlomo told, now there's AI transcriptions. I just dropped this in the AI transcription. It says, everyone knows about Reb Matala of Chernobyl, but here it says the motherland Chernobyl. So that's a non-Jewish AI. Because eventually we have the highest capitalists, the highest Kabbalists. Kabbalists became capitalists. So It's a story about Rabbi Mata.
So you plugged the video or the audio into and transcribe.
Yeah, so what I did is I
Got it.
just technically, I'll just tell you,
That's fine.
I went to YouTube to MP3, dropped the link in there, downloaded the MP3, dropped it in the AI. It's called TurboScribe. It's free.
Yeah.
And then it puts this out pretty quickly. So because I have a podcast of stories, people have been asking me to put the stories in books. In the past, I didn't want to spend tens of thousands of shekels to hire somebody to transcribe them. Now it's free. I just have to edit them afterwards. But you drop it in, it's really something. It's life-changing. So there's a story of Reb Matala of Chernobyl. Reb Matala said, we know Chernobyl these days because of the nuclear meltdown, but in those days it was the Hasidic, Rebbe nuclear meltdown. It was a powerhouse of these Hasidic Rebbes. There's Reb Nachum of Chernobyl, who was one of the closest Hasidim of the Baal Shem Tov, and Reb Matala, who was his son, and I went on a trip to Uman 4 years ago, because it was in January 2020, and the first stop I went to was Reb Matala of Chernobyl, who's buried in a potato field in Ukraine. And so Reb Matala is one of these, high tzaddikim, and he and some other big rebbes or mekubalim are sitting in the back of a wagon, riding back home. And Reb Matala there's a simple water carrier sitting there, and he has no idea what these mekubalim are saying that's beyond him. And so one of the Hasidim says it's not fair. We have to give a little encouragement to Moshe the water carrier here, because he's too simple. He doesn't understand the conversations going on. And they say to him, so they say to the Moshe the water carrier, so how was your Shabbos? And he said, Shabbos was amazing. And they say, really? Why was Shabbos so great? He said, the Rebbe met with me at 3 a.m. Like, wow, the Rebbe met with you at 3 a.m. What's so special about you? And they said, tell us, what was the conversation? So he said, I'm sitting there at the feast on Friday night, and the Rebbe is pouring out these words, giving the deepest teachings, and I don't understand anything. And afterwards, I'm sitting and I'm crying and I'm ashamed. And the Rebbe, because he's so holy and he can see into my heart, he knows that I'm embarrassed and ashamed. And he calls me into his room, and he says, "So Moshe, tell me, what do you normally do in the morning?" He said, "Well, Rebbe, I'm a water carrier, so I wake up at 2:00 in the morning to deliver the water." And the Rebbe says, "Why do you get up so early?" He says, "Because the peasants, they get up at 3. And the peasants have to have their water before they get up. And then I start bringing the water to the rabbis and the scholars and everybody else. They get up for nates, but the peasants get up before to start working in the fields." And so the Reb Matala of Chernobyl, he says, "So before you deliver the water, do you say Birkot HaShachar? You say the morning prayers?" And he says, "No, Rebbe, I don't have any time for that. I don't have any time for davening. I don't have time for anything. I got to get up and just start delivering the water." And he says, "So when do you say the prayers?" He said, "Well, eventually, later in the day, I usually get a chance." And the Rebbe says, "Let me tell you, you remind me of Chatzkel David me Hanapoli." He said, Chatzkel David, he won 100,000 ruble lottery. And he goes to St. Petersburg to pick up his money. He has the lottery ticket. He goes to pick up his money. He got 91,000 rubles and 37 kopecks after the government took its taxes. And he's been poor his whole life. And so he doesn't want to spend money on a train ticket to go back home. So he walks back home. And he's got the money with him, and it's now Shabbos, and he can't carry the money on Shabbos. So he goes to the local rabbi, whatever town he was in, and he says, "Rabbi, I won the lottery. I won 100,000 rubles. I have 91,000 rubles and 37 kopecks. Rabbi, will you please hold it for me until after Shabbos?" And the rabbi puts it away in a safe place, and all Shabbos, the rabbi can see that Chatzkel David is looking at him, thinking he's going to take my money. He's going to take my money. And when Shabbos is over, all the rabbi wants to do is throw the money back at him and say, "Get out of here. I don't want you being suspicious of me taking the money." And of course, he counts all the 100 ruble bills until he gets to 91,000. And he looks at the rabbi and he says, "Where's my 37 kopecks?" And he says, this is what you're like. You get up in the morning to work, and you say, I got to make my 91,000 rubles today. And he says, all Hashem is asking you for is 37 kopecks. And you're not even willing to give that to Hashem. He said, you're so worried that you don't have time to daven? He said, find time to daven, because you're giving to Hashem, and Hashem is giving to you. And Reb Shlomo ends this with something which I think is so relevant for today. He said, I had the privilege once to play in Israel for thousands of people, and I told them, you know what the problem in the Holy Land is? We just don't trust Hashem yet with the 37 kopecks. So bless me and I'll bless you, all of us, just 1 ounce more trusting. And that's really what we're experiencing now. That, we have the army, the government, the army. We have to remember Hashem. We can trust Hashem a little bit as well, even if it's just 37 kopecks. Okay, so we're going to sing a little nigun, and we'll continue again next week.